Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the life of Abraham, a figure whose personal journey of faith totally changed the game for multiple world religions. We're going to trace his story, not just as some old legend, but as the real story of a person's profound transformation, from a guy facing total uncertainty to a symbol of unwavering belief.
So, the whole story kicks off with this massive, life-changing command. You have to understand, back then, leaving your family and your homeland, that was like erasing your entire identity and safety net. This wasn't just moving to a new town, it was a complete break from everything he knew, all for a promise and a destination he hadn't even been told yet.
So this first part of his journey, it's all about one thing: obedience when you have absolutely no idea what's coming next. It's really the first big step in his whole spiritual journey.
And get this, at 75 years old, an age when most of us are thinking about slowing down, Abram, as he was called back then, just packs everything up, his wife, his nephew, all their stuff, and sets off for a foreign land based purely on a divine promise of land and a legacy.
And the promise he's given? It's just staggering. From this one man who doesn't even have any kids, a great nation is supposed to emerge. His name would become famous, and, here's the kicker, through him all the families of the earth would eventually be blessed.
But this journey of faith isn't some straight, easy road. Not at all. Right away, the promise gets put to the test by some pretty harsh realities, and this is where we see Abraham's very human, very flawed side come out.
I mean, look at this tension. It's immediate. He's been promised a huge nation that will come from his own kids. But what's his reality? First, there's a famine, so they're facing starvation. And second, his wife, Sarai, can't have children.
And this whole episode in Egypt really shows us he's just a guy, Instead of trusting the very promise that just led him hundreds of miles, he gets scared. He lies, saying his wife is his sister, and that lie puts her and the entire covenant in serious danger. It really shows that his faith, it's in its early days. It's still got a long way to go.
But here's the crazy part. Even after that epic failure, the promise isn't taken back. In fact, after he has a generous parting of ways with his nephew Lot, God comes back and reaffirms the deal in this incredibly grand way, comparing his future family to the dust of the earth, something you literally cannot count. Okay, so this leads us to a really important shift. The relationship moves from just a promise to something way more formal, a binding agreement, what historians and theologians call a covenant.
Now, to really get what's happening next, you have to understand what a covenant meant back then. It wasn't just, I promise. Nope. This was a super serious, unbreakable contract, and it was often sealed with a specific ritual to show just how serious it was.
For years, Abraham still doesn't have a kid to carry on the family name. But then, God makes the promise super specific. He's told, no, it's not going to be some adopted heir. It will be a son from your own body. All of a sudden, this abstract idea becomes incredibly real and personal.
So when Abraham is 99 years old, the whole thing is made official with some very clear terms. It means new names. Abram becomes Abraham, father of many nations. It legally confirms the land inheritance, and it establishes a permanent physical sign, circumcision, to be passed down through all the generations to come.
100. That's how old Abraham was when Isaac, the son he'd waited for his whole life, was finally born. And his wife Sarah was 90. I mean, it's a completely impossible thing that actually happened, the fulfillment of a promise that was decades old.
So, just imagine, after all these decades of waiting, the promise is real. He's holding his son Isaac. The long, hard journey seems like it's finally over, right? Well, not even close. What comes next is the single greatest test of his entire life.
And that's the real question, isn't it? The heir is here. The future is secure. What could possibly be asked of a man who has now seen the impossible happen with his own eyes?
And then comes the command. And it is absolutely gut-wrenching. He's told to take that son, his only son, the one he loves, and go offer him as a sacrifice. It makes no sense. It seems to go against the entire promise he's built his whole life on.
But look at the man he's become. This is not the same guy who lied in Egypt got a fear. This Abraham just gets up early in the morning and does what he's told. There's no record of him arguing, no protesting, just this quiet, powerful resolve. His growth is right there in that silence. And that conversation on the mountain, it's just heartbreaking. Isaac's innocent question, hey, Dad, where's the lamb for the offering? It cuts right to the heart of it.
But Abraham's answer shows how far he's come. My son, God will provide. That's a level of deep, settled trust we just didn't see at the start of his story.
And he goes through with it. Every single step. He builds the altar, he ties up his own son, he actually takes the knife. This shows his complete trust, his willingness to give absolutely everything back to God, even the miracle son he waited a century for.
And then, at the very last second, a voice from heaven stops him. Do not lay your hand on the lad. The test is over. And just like Abraham said in faith, a ram is provided, caught in a thicket nearby. His belief, which was forged in trial after trial, has now been proven absolute.
In the end, the covenant is confirmed again, but this time it's even more powerful. Because the blessing is now explicitly tied not just to a promise that was made to Abraham, but because of the incredible faith he showed through his obedience. So when you look at Abraham's life as a whole, it's this incredible arc from a flawed man ruled by fear to someone with unshakable trust. His story really transcends time, and it leaves us with this huge, timeless question about what faith really is. What does it actually mean to trust in a promise you can't yet see? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.